Every person I've talked to who's worked in video games, film, or TV has at least one story about terrible executives and their worst creative decisions. These executives are often born into wealth and sometimes get their positions because of daddy's influence. Take David Ellison, for example. Despite having no creative bone in their body, they get to make sweeping decisions that impact people's careers, jobs, and art. These executives often push back on marginalized voices existing, or heavily control how we're allowed to exist, or fire workers while profiting, or make terrible changes. Just look at the recent Pixar controversy around removing all queerness from Elio, or when Disney pulled an episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur about trans kids in sports, or when Disney shuttered the animation studio Blue Sky and tried to kill off Nimona, or when Warner Brothers executives killed Batgirl likely for being a mostly marginalized cast and crew, or when Sony decided K-pop Demon Hunters was unprofitable and canned it only for Netflix to take it and it became a top-grossing film, top-watched streaming film, and won an Oscar. Or when an executive told Jeff Kaplan he had to achieve outrageous figures on Overwatch or 1,000 people would get laid off. Or when games companies keep shuttering studios after setting them up to fail with outrageous expectations for their live service shooter. Or when companies remove art, often queer art such as Infinity Train and She-Ra, from any legal avenue of being watched. Or when companies do mass layoffs while being profitable and their CEO is buying expensive cars, like with Epic Games and Bungie. Or when Sony scrapped Matt Braley and Rebecca Sugar's animated film because they didn't learn from K-pop Demon Hunters. Or when an executive who helped get the Buffy reboot cancelled openly mocked the show to Sarah Michelle Gellar and bragged about not having seen the show he was working on. Or when Visa and MasterCard got various platforms to censor completely legal art because it's NSFW. Or when Paramount cancelled all Star Trek productions while I was filming this. Or when they put their specific fetishes in the show against the wishes of the creators and actors on the project. I've heard of that happening 4 separate times. To be clear, art containing fetishes is good and cool and should exist and should not be censored. But executives forcing them onto people, often underage actresses, isn't. The most public example being Dan Schneider and his kids' shows at Nickelodeon. Point being, executives and those who control the money tend to be terrible for art production and disdainful towards the art form. None of the things I mentioned are isolated incidents. They're instead singular examples of patterns that occur over and over and over again. This isn't to say creatives can't make outrageous, shitty, or harmful decisions. On the creative decision side, George Lucas's later works and Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis come to mind.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
The most difficult part is to not go too far, just go strange enough.
Yeah.
That's the biggest trap people fall into in these kinds of movies, is they go too far.
So go back to the club.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
On the misusing power side, Me Too exists for a reason and runs the gambit of executives and rich artists, because I think both issues stem from individuals having far too much control and power in what are fundamentally collaborative mediums, something that is less structurally inherent on the creative side but still occurs. After all, when there are abusive actors and directors, it is often their executive buddies that are covering their asses. The ability to force their will onto projects, especially when they aren't creative themselves, often results in worse art. I think even if you compare a work of art where the artists were extremely unrestrained and it's not well regarded, with one where the executives are extremely involved, the first will still be more interesting. And I think the perfect example for this is Illumination's The Super Mario Bros. Movie and its 1993 live-action counterpart.
What about the accents? Is it too much?
No, it's not a big problem. Just leave it to the professionals.
The difference in films is most obvious in its casting. In my opinion, the 1993 cast and character writing is phenomenal comparatively. Bob Hoskins is perfect as Mario. His version is emotionally intelligent, kind, and instantly conveys that he's a caring older sibling who looks out for everyone, but also doesn't put up with bullshit. He also has a voice that feels distinctly Mario, even as he deviates from Charles Martinet's and Lou Albano's performances. You can tell this is a Brooklyn plumber. Chris Pratt, meanwhile, is abysmal. He doesn't sound like a Mario, he sounds like Chris Pratt if he maybe heard what a Brooklyn accent sounded like from a bad impressionist. Which, considering the film's opening sections focus on them being from Brooklyn, doesn't do itself any favors. Also, even when trying to do a traditional Mario voice, Chris Pratt is, struggling, let's put it kindly, which is made worse when they mock Charles Martinet by making his performance the butt of jokes.
Too much? It's perfect. Wahoo! Okay, I'm gonna trust you.
Personally, mocking an iconic performance while replacing the performer with a mediocre celebrity is pretty insulting to voice acting as an art form. It's a perfect exemplar of how Hollywood has increasingly over the last 3 decades, in animation, cast voices based on their fame and less on whether they fit the character. To be clear, plenty of actors can do both. Robin Williams' excellent performances is partly how we got here in the first place, but there's a big difference between Tim Curry in any of his roles, where he's clearly cast because he can do them, and someone being cast exclusively for the marketing team's benefit.
Zendaya is Michi, and LeBron James is Gwangi.
One of my partner Penn's favorite films, Weird American Re-Release, is probably the best thing for showing this, and is also another example of executive meddling. The Magic Roundabout and Dougal are 2 different edits of the same film, both an animated continuation of the 60s British TV show, The Magic Roundabout. For whatever reason, when bringing the film to America, the executives decided to make a series of changes, like cutting out an entire sequence that makes one part of the plot coherent, adding a lot of fart jokes and voiceover for this moose, and recasting everyone except for Ian McKellen. For example, in the original film, the villain Z-Bat is played by the talented Tom Baker, best known for being the 4th Doctor on Doctor Who.
Today, one soldier. Tomorrow, the world.
As you can tell, he fits the role, but for the American release, he's played by Jon Stewart in one of the most perplexing vocal performances for a villain I've ever heard.
And I gotta admit, I like the mustache. And you'll obey my every command.
The contrast in vocal performance is particularly stark because Ian McKellen's performance remains. Across Tom Baker, they're acting equals.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Some like it hot.
Across Jon Stewart, it sounds like a 90s game developer voice acting their own lines, trying to keep up with Gandalf.
So we meet again.
I've waited 10,000 years.
I've waited 10,000 years for my revenge.
Somehow Jon Stewart's performance isn't the worst one by a talk show host in this film, because Jimmy Fallon's here too.
Starts with candy bars, man. Maybe a Snickers fun size and wax on, wax off.
That line's not even in the original. The executives clearly thought that Americans couldn't handle watching a film without a bunch of terrible reference jokes and Kevin Smith as a farting moose.
Oh, right on. The Blue Man Group's back in town.
It is rare to be able to see so starkly the difference that casting makes on a film, as well as the effect that executives meddling has on the script and editing. Watching these 2 versions of the film back to back was extremely jarring.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
But I'm Mario now.
Returning to the Chris Pratt, his line deliveries also feel pretty flat.
Well, never thought of that as a good thing.
I couldn't easily tell you who he is from it. Now, to be clear, the entire cast isn't terrible. While I don't find his accent conveys Luigi, which makes me think both are a result of direction, Charlie Day at least conveys Luigi's personality clearly.
You are not seriously considering Mario!
Even if I think of this when he talks.
Buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper. There's no Pepe Sylvia, you gotta be kidding me! I got boxes full of Pepe!
Jack Black as Bowser feels the most fitting of the primary cast, most fitting being a relative term. It's one of the rare times where I feel like he was directed to not just play Jack Black. He's an incel with a great deal of anger and ego, and the raspy grumble works well for that. Though the film doesn't have much to say about him being misogynistic. The penguins in Luma are actually good? Having the best comedy in the film, at least.
Time, like hope, is an illusion.
Please, we are depressed enough!
I do love Carrie Payton as a performer though, so that might be bias. There's also this. Which, while I find it funny, it is not a good performance of Donkey Kong. I just am a child and for whatever reason am entertained by his stupid laugh. Almost in part because it doesn't fit. Point being, the new Mario movies are not cast based on who fits a role best, but based on whether they're famous enough. At least that's how it appears to me. Even when I'm sure, for example, Donald Glover will do a good job as Yoshi, he was at least partly cast for fame. It's a studio executive asking who will make us the most money, and not a casting director asking who will give the best performance. This is not remotely an issue unique to Illumination, as previously discussed, though. Casting on fame is, in my opinion, a poor method of making the best film you can, but that's not the priorities of an executive. The executive's desire for recognizable voices results in directing performances to sound like the actor, even if they have the ability to do a voice more fitting to the character. And look, I don't hate Chris Pratt's performance in everything I've seen him in. I've talked about how he's good in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies before, and he was funny in the bits of Parks and Rec I've seen. I just don't think he's a particularly skilled actor, especially voice actor, and has a bit of a limited range. I would hope that's not too controversial after a lot of his recent films like Mercy, which is why I think he's not just poorly cast, but poorly directed here. Instead of committing to a voice or to doing just a Chris Pratt voice, he does this weird half-step that draws attention to how unfitting it all is. Peach also isn't very distinct. Anya Taylor-Joy's a skilled actress from what I've seen of her work, so I'm fairly certain they just told her to sound like Anya Taylor-Joy. But nothing about the voice conveys Peach. We must defeat Bowser. Maybe I'm silly, but I don't understand why she can't have a Peach voice. It's not like Peach hasn't spoken in the games before.
Dear Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Princess Toadstool. Peach.
To be fair, there is Toad, and I do love some of Keegan-Michael Key's work. But he's playing Toad in the most generic man voice here, and like with Chris, it's distractingly unfitting to the character, in my opinion, which is subjective. If you like it, that's totally fair. He is at least trying something, I just don't feel like that something is Toad. To which some of you may ask, what else could the Toad voice have been? And I would say, the same as the games. Because, and you would know this if you watched Game Grumps growing up, Toad can be quite funny just as a voice.
We won't let those fuckers take this land! No, Toad! Go on without me, Toad!
The larger point being, for a lot of the characters, I don't believe the fiction. I don't hear the character. I either hear the celebrity, likely the goal, or it's just a bit bland. On the other hand, I do believe the 1993 cast. Both Luigi and Mario actually sound like they're from Brooklyn. John Leguizamo's Luigi Mario is a sweet, nervous boy who's more head in the clouds. It contrasts him with his brother who's focused on practical things first and foremost.
I do believe. I believe the rent is 3 months overdue. That's what I believe.
Luigi's less scaredy cat and more socially anxious in a way that's endearing and fits the film he's in.
I want to apologize right now in case when I start to get talking.
His first instinct on meeting Daisy is to help her, and so is Mario's.
If it would help you out, please step into the bath.
He does ask her out, but it feels very natural and respectful, and Mario supporting him is also very sweet.
If you're not doing anything later tonight, I would like to walk you home.
Okay.
Samantha Mathis's Daisy is a paleontologist whose work is central to the plot occurring. She is the one we first see fighting a rich construction guy. She has integrity and won't be pushed around, but also parallels Luigi's anxieties.
If you just want to end this right now, I would understand.
They both didn't know their parents, and because of that, they feel insecure about if someone would actually like them. They honestly remind me a little bit of Pen and I in this scene, for example.
You really think what I do is interesting?
I think it's incredible.
And in this one as well.
You don't stand a chance. I won.
We were literally racing to get the backs off of the double-sided tape when we were setting up his BFA show the other day, because who doesn't enjoy silly competitions with their partner? Point being, they make a straight relationship I like and believe, and that takes work. Daisy is a compelling lead, though unfortunately this film also participates in damsel in distressing its woman, the Mario special. However, she does get to save the day at the end of the film, working with Luigi. I think kid me would have adored her because she was a paleontologist, and I kind of wish I saw it back then.
Luigi, Mario! Daisy!
Even the small roles are quite well done. I love Francesca P. Roberts as Bertha, for example. I just love when a woman gets to be strong, and so does Mario.
Excuse me. Will you hit me again? I've never seen such fluidity.
The film may not be, but the Mario Bros in the film are #1 women respecters.
Dance with me. I'll hit you all this night.
Bertha consistently helps them in fighting the fascists, and that is generally great. Though she does touch on some film tropes around bigger black women. There's a long-standing element of misogynoir, where black women are presented as aggressive, violent, or more assertive, while simultaneously, as part of general misogyny and white supremacist thinking, white women are presented as meek and inactive. This film falls into those tropes by having all the white women be damsels in distress, while its only black woman is a bouncer who the brothers' first interaction with is negative. That said, I do think the film overall places her as a hero, and Mario and Luigi wouldn't succeed without her help and gear.
You just said you were wrong.
An evil, egg-sucking son of a snake. Did I lie?
Its villains are also fun. The Goombas are ridiculous, and I love that getting them to dance is a Chekhov's gun. As well, Dennis Hopper is entertainingly scene-chewing and absurd, in a way that feels fitting to an egotistical dinosaur man who wants to rule the world.
Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Lizard King, thank you very much.
As a side note, the way that he says Goomba has been stuck in my head since I watched it. It's become a new vocal stem. I cannot escape it, but it's still funny anyway.
Goomba! Goomba!
He's just so proud and happy about his Goombas.
Be proud! Go Goomba!
Fiona Shaw matches his energy as Dinosaur Lauren Bobbert. Sorry, I mean Lena.
I'm Mr. Sterling's right-hand arm, man. I'm Mr. Sterling everything. I'm his confidant, his best friend, his silly rabbit.
While there are issues with the writing, especially with most of the women being damsels in distress, minus Bertha who does stuff like this, it's a serviceable script with clear messages and good jokes. Mario 2023? Not so much. And as Verinder Singh Jubal put it in a Blue Sky post, what will the Super Mario Galaxy film have to, say, you know? Alongside this image. Which is a question worth asking of that film, and of its predecessor.
At least you're not gonna die with your dad thinking you're a joke.
And well, my dad thinks I'm a joke, too.
What I'm about to say may sound ridiculous, but I promise you if you watch the film, you'll know exactly what I mean. 1993 Mario is about late-stage capitalism, police violence, and the need to resist genocidal eugenicists. While King Koopa in this film is barely recognizable to his game counterpart in any way, it is in service to the story of the film and in service to its themes that he's changed. He draws parallels between the tyranny of kings and that of business CEOs and billionaires, even having a human construction tycoon counterpart. The film's deconstruction of him and his supremacist beliefs feels even more relevant now, with figures like Bezos, Thiel, Altman, and Musk in their relationship with the fascist American regime. The issues it discussed have only worsened. President Koopa is also, in my opinion, partly based on Trump as he was in the 90s, which has helped the film age fairly well. A lot of people forget he's been posturing about running for a long time.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life.
And was a menace in New York, and it's not a mistake Koopa's human counterpart is in real estate in Brooklyn. It may get on points for me for adaptional accuracy, but it is at least trying to tell a story with a real message to it. Every change is in service to the characters, narrative, and theme. Take Mojo Nixon's Bob Dylan-esque protest song singing Toad. Sure, it is a weird direction to take Toad, but it tells us various things about this world, its politics, and directly ties the film's dystopia to real-world artistic censorship that is very much alive in America today. The cops are even modeled on the NYPD, and the prison reflects American ones. There is a clear disdain for police and carceral systems in this film. While I could see 2023 Mario being a cop, 1993 Mario laughs when he causes multiple cops to explode each other's vehicles. There's even a cut scene where Spike and Iggy have a revolutionary rap about the importance of resistance, though honestly the song is rough and the film's better without it. As well, a T-Rex man wanting to dominate the world again as a metaphor for conservatives yearning for an imagined past where they dominated is quite clever. The film's opening narration even compares the dinosaurs' cruelty to our own, making the message very clear even for kids. As well, it doesn't participate in essentializing. The dinosaur proletariat has solidarity with the human proletariat, as seen with Toad, Iggy, and Spike. There's even this line.
Fascist, oppressor of the proletariat!
Like, the film is still fundamentally a capitalist product. It is not gonna start the revolution or anything. The film does support the monarchy, after all. But it at least has a perspective to share. On the other hand, genuinely, what does the Super Mario Bros. Movie have to say? I guess you could say it's about believing in yourself. It tacitly endorses monarchy, but I'd say that's more a result of the games, and both films do it. I asked Penn the same question, and they said, I guess it's about believing in yourself when your dad doesn't? And we truly can't think of anything else. 1993 also does belief as a theme far better. Mario and Luigi discuss belief and trust across the film, which culminates in this scene where he has to trust the devolved Mushroom King's fungal form to catch him.
Mario! I got you!
But again, note the difference. 1993 Mario is about trusting in the kindness of others, of believing in each other and the impossible. 2023 is about the self. Always. Now, to be fair, a film doesn't necessarily need to explore themes, but I would hope you can agree it's probably better off with them. You could argue that it tries to discuss class, because it touches on the brothers struggling with money at the start, kind of like their 1993 counterparts. But the two films convey completely different messages with completely different levels of care about the topic. 1993 Mario and Luigi are the type of people to use their last quarter to help a stranger. They don't want fame or success through rugged individualism. They want to afford meals and support their community.
The only thing miraculous I know is that we're still eating.
2023 Mario quit his job to try and make it on his own.
Have you even gotten one call since you left me to start your dumb company?
Not out of necessity, but instead emphasizing a long-standing capitalist idea of being an entrepreneur and focusing on personal success. He just wants to stick it to his haters. They're broke because they spent their life savings making this advertisement in the pursuit of the self-made man myth.
I am so glad we spent our life savings on this commercial.
He wants so badly to do something big, and to be somebody special.
The Mario brothers in 1993 are working because they need to. Even then, they're focused on others. While Scapelli is a rival, they would have helped Daisy with his sabotage either way. Plus, the scene is more about tying together these different workers' struggles against the same capitalist thugs. In 2023, they go to fix the pipes in the hopes of fame. While both versions of the scene are facilitating them going through the isekai experience, the motivations and characterization couldn't be more different.
Daisy? Daisy, where are you?
Save Brooklyn? Luigi, this is our chance!
As well, class just doesn't come up again in the film. Like at all. Mario 1993 consistently engages in discussion of class divides. 2023 feels more like it grabs some set dressing from 1993 and the 80s TV show without understanding why those elements were there, or wanting to say anything with them. They are forgotten, like so many other elements of the film, as soon as we move on to the next sequence. So if 2023 doesn't have much of a central theme or message or anything to say, does the plot at least function? In my opinion, the Mario movie is less a plot and more a vehicle for showing a certain set of Mario things. And listen, I'm not a plot hole person. I don't think that you need to logically explain everything. The issues with this film aren't plot holes, they're cliffs. For example, a huge chunk of the film is dedicated to Mario and Peach going to recruit the Kongs together so they can beat Bowser. We establish that they have enough time to do this, and the positions of everyone on the map, and that Bowser can't get there to stop them. When they're coming back with the Kongs, Bowser ambushes them and defeats all the Kongs. Why spend all this time establishing context if you're just going to ignore it? The whole point of getting the Kongs was because they could beat Bowser's army. We know the Toads can't fight because of later sections of the film, and we know Bowser can't get to them because we were shown the map. So either the Kongs are useless and the entire quest was pointless anyway, and the writers forgot about that scene with the map, or The writers didn't think about the actual point of this section because they just wanted a Rainbow Road sequence. To be clear, I think it's fine to have a kids film that you just shut your brain off for. I do think that kids deserve better quality writing than that, but it's fine. I bring this up because it's representative of larger flaws, of placing spectacle over having a story. As well, having the protagonists fail can be really compelling in a film where it's used for thematic purposes, or is used for character development. But the characters here are so static it doesn't really work. Things just happen because they're needed for getting to the next set piece. It's like it's going through the motions of animated kids movies, where the protagonists get separated and or fail before the third act and then come back together. It's using a formulaic structure while not understanding the purpose of the formula. For another example, take the threat to Brooklyn that brings Mario and Luigi underground to the warp pipe. They just forget about it. Mario fails to fix the valve and massive amounts of water is still leaking everywhere as far as the audience is shown. What's wild is this is nearly the exact same way that Luigi and Mario end up in the other world in 1993. The difference there is they are fixing the sabotage of Daisy's dig site caused by Scapelli's goons. A personal motivation showing their moral character rather than just the generic, this is our shot to be successful. Mario isn't heroic here, he just wants free advertising. In 1993, they get knocked out and then follow the goons to save Daisy. In Illumination's version, this dangling threat to an entire city is just abandoned, forgotten. We don't even really see the effect on Brooklyn after they get back. The film does this again with the Mushroom Kingdom when it's sucked in by the pipe. Blew up half the Mushroom Kingdom? Forget about it. It doesn't matter. The creators didn't care, so why should you? As DigitalBeef put it in the Patreon Discord when I was discussing this,
it's not meant to be a cohesive film. It's meant to tour Mario through a collection of Mario environments where he can do vaguely protagonist activities so people can point at the screen.
It frustrates me because this film is constantly almost... It's not the right word. But it's almost fine. Not great or notable, but there's glimmers of an okay kids film here. But the plot beats feel less in service of a plot and more in service to getting to the set pieces executives wanted. I truly think there is little to no consideration for what services the art. This isn't just an issue with this film either. The MCU famously locks in well ahead of finishing a script so they can get started on CGI, resulting in massive amounts of reshoots and sometimes absurd amounts of changes to scenes in post-production. Personally, I think you should know what story you're telling before you tell it. But the MCU, and Mario it seems, both don't care about the story, they care about being the ideal product, and that ends up damaging the artistic elements. 1993 has many flaws, but it is definitely not choosing product over being a film, though it is still a product. Even the editing in 2023 Mario is a bit messy, like this shot of Mario jumping over a dog. Now to be clear, you can edit to create something more punchy by removing chunks and making it feel faster. But it literally goes from this to this in one frame. Speaking of inconsistency, this scene perfectly encapsulates how the film will be inconsistent about characterization. The movie sets it up for Mario to be extremely brave and Luigi to be the scaredy cat, fitting to their game portrayal. But now that it works for comedy, they make him scared identically with Luigi, undercutting their entire contrast. Now to be clear, I'm not saying Mario can't experience fear, but here it is just to service a kind of weak joke. Outside of arguably Luigi, this movie doesn't really care to use character for comedy. Instead, it'll undercut character for weak comedy. Like, we have this entire scene setting up that Mario can do parkour well.
Parkour!
Extreme!
Parkour! Parkour!
But now that it serves the comedy, Mario's bad at it. He isn't a character with consistent traits because, like with many things in the film, that's not the goal or purpose. He's brave unless it's maybe funny. He's competent unless it's maybe funny. These inconsistent traits clash in such a way that they undercut both the comedy and the character. Also, this film is the cardinal sin of doing a bad Matrix reference joke.
It's the only way to fly, man.
It's called mescaline. It's the only way to fly.
Which, hey, so did Dougal.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
And like, listen, I love The Matrix as a 5-year-old. I would have gotten it, but I don't feel like most kids in 2023 are getting a really specific Matrix one-line reference. It's a weird thing to include just for parents.
Not quite what you were expecting, right?
It's a beautiful story of two underdogs trying to make it in a cruel world.
Mario's character has no arc, no change, no development. He's brave and never gives up and will show his haters, and then, when things are tough, he's still brave and not giving up when he shows his haters. He even did it as a baby. They literally show you that he hasn't changed from when he was a baby. It's like they think they set up a character arc that didn't happen with this down moment. There's a second, almost interesting element where Mario wants approval from his dad, and so does DK, which makes them parallel.
At least you're not gonna die with your dad thinking you're a joke.
And well, my dad thinks I'm a joke, too.
But it doesn't really have any impact on them as characters. He's a flat character with some vague pointers at a character arc that maybe existed in one draft. I mean, in a more competent film, Mario having self-doubt because of his dad could have been a real, character flaw to overcome. He could have made a mistake in the Rainbow Road sequence because of it, and then had to overcome that flaw and show his dad his development. The bravery could have been false bravado that he'd have to learn how to make into actual bravery. Or, they could have shown him actually being average and show why people doubt him, and then have him actually change across the course of the film, instead of it just being about the perception of another character. Mario is fundamentally the same person at the end of the film as the beginning. He just lives in the Mushroom Kingdom now, and his dad is proud. How another character or character's feelings towards the protagonist change is not the protagonist having a character arc. It can be used to indicate or show one, but it is not one in and of itself. Luigi does at least have a character arc, learning to stand up for himself and his brother as Mario did for him. Which isn't much, but it's something.
You don't seem like you're from here.
I don't know where I'm from.
Peach is usually a hyper-femme character, often unfortunately in sexist ways. She's probably video games' most iconic damsel in distress after all, other than Zelda, of course. She gets some solo protagonist roles, but that isn't always good either. Seriously, Nintendo, why are the only 2 games where she's the main protagonist giving her the power of dress-up and being emotional? And I'm saying that as a woman who is very emotional and likes dressing up. I will say this film does at least try to make her a character, but she's similarly flat to Mario. She wants to know where she came from, but then that one character element's just dropped. They could have either explored where she came from or explored why she doesn't need to find out because she's already home. You generally shouldn't put in an I want scene and then completely forget about the want, but that's how this film rolls. It's all dangling threads. I do appreciate that they at least let Peach be more than a damsel in distress for some of the runtime, and they made the smart decision to make Luigi the damsel in the first half. But we go right back to Peach being captured in the third act anyway. She does get to briefly save herself for a moment at the wedding, but then Mario saves the day. Mario's the one that gets the Kongs. Mario's the one that saves the Mushroom Kingdom from the Bullet Bill. And Mario is the one, alongside Luigi, to beat Bowser. Peach exists, as she has in so many of the games, to facilitate Mario and Bowser's stories, while her own character arc and storyline is just dropped. She isn't an equal, her story isn't important to the filmmakers. Also, anyone whining about Peach being capable clearly hasn't played a Mario game in many years, because Peach has been playable in a lot of the releases, my personal favorite being 3D Land, which I beat with Pen recently. She absolutely can and does do platforming in the games. Also, the idea that a feminine woman with a high-pitched voice and girly mannerisms can't be strong and capable and a hero is just misogyny. That's directed at the film and the people whining because a woman wasn't just a sexy lamp. Jack Saint has a great, more in-depth video on the Chud's reaction to the film that I highly recommend, but I just wanted to touch on this part because I think it's really funny. I mean, she literally competes at the Olympics. She's been strong and capable plenty of times in games. I wouldn't argue that Illumination's Mario is feminist, though. It's at least better than having its protagonist woman be a pure damsel in distress, one of the few notable improvements of this film over its 1993 counterpart. Or at least I would say it's an improvement, but Peach still ends up a damsel in distress, and Daisy ends the film a hero.
Princesses have always played an important role in the Mario universe.
They bring strength, heart, and emotion to the story.
That said, it does at least not sexualize the woman as much. There are good things with 2023 and messy parts of 1993. For example, the original participates in some weird views on evolution as a linear line of progress. That said, whether you like or dislike Illumination's Mario, I would hope that we can agree it could be a better film. There are all these threads, these elements, these things that are hinted at or plastered over or removed that make it frustrating, because it could be better. If only it was in the hands of creative people and not so much in the miserly grip of corporate.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by my supporters on Patreon. For just $3 a month, you get access to exclusive monthly mini-written essays, scripts for videos, and early access to videos. This one in particular is much better on Patreon because in the next chapter, I'm able to include snippets of the Needledrops without risk of a copyright strike. YouTube viewers, you'll unfortunately just have to imagine the songs. As well, $5 patrons get access to the Patreon Discord. This video partially exists because of conversations in there back when I watched both films. You can also support by clicking the hype button, the like button, and leaving a comment. Link in the description. Thank you for your time.
We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
But I didn't make it.
No one gets it right away.
How many tries did it take you?
I got it right away.
Which finally gets me to the element that made me want to write this in the first place. The thing that infuriated me so much at Mario 2023. The Needledrops. To be clear, I adore when a Needledrop is done well. There's a reason Jesse and I made an entire video on Guardians of the Galaxy and another video on James Gunn's filmography overall. Part of the appeal of Fallout as a franchise is its use of 50s Needledrops as well. When used with clear purpose and an understanding of the intertextual value of including the song, Needledrops can be one of the most impactful moments in any work of art. But a Needledrop's a delicate thing. It can be extremely distracting when it clashes with the theme, or the tone, or the scene, or the characters. In my opinion, Illumination frequently does a quite poor job of including Needledrops in their films, but I think Mario might be its roughest attempt. I don't dislike any of the songs, but the vast majority don't fit the scenes they're in. If I were to tell you that Mario uses Take On Me in the film, what kind of scene would you imagine it being in? Maybe one where the characters have to struggle against something, or prove themselves, or otherwise take something on. But if you guessed a honestly removable scene of driving from one place to another, you'd be correct. You could argue that it's establishing shots, but the space is never used again, and it tells us nothing about the characters either. I guess you could argue that they're taking on driving, or that it expresses that the carts are dangerous for later? I truly can't think of a reason for this song, other than that corporate said you need a certain amount of songs recognizable to parents. Otherwise it's not a real kids animated film. If you contrast this film's usage with the unfortunate culprit for why this is a trend in kids animation, and the only film to do it particularly well, Shrek, it makes the issues even more apparent. In this scene, Shrek and Fiona are just traveling somewhere, much like the Take On Me scene. But because this film is actually, made with the Needledrops in mind, the song is both emotionally tied to the scene, and the scene is used to show the burgeoning romance between the leads, while also having slapstick comedy. This scene isn't even one of the top 5 uses of Needledrops in that film, but it is still so much better than its Mario counterpart. The Mario scene arguably exists for comedy with the banana crash and the fear in Mario, Toad, and Peach's eyes. But I'm not sure it really works, especially with the song choice and the lack of audio support to the comedy. Contrast, when used intentionally, is extremely powerful, but everything here is just clashing. It is less than the sum of its parts, pushed further by the audio not really matching or connecting to any of the animation or editing on screen. Now, the reason the scene feels so disconnected is that there's an original score piece called Driving Me Bananas that originally matched all the animation and editing. That's right, the executives literally removed excellent score in place of one of the worst used Needledrops in film. I really wasn't kidding, they must have been told they needed more Needledrops. So instead of, for example, building tension and releasing it as originally planned, we we just have Take On Me playing. Instead of bouncy, silly Kong music representing the people and place they are in, it's a random 80s song. Nothing coheres because it was never meant to cohere. This would be egregious for just one scene, but this is Illumination we're dealing with, so of course they did it for nearly every single needle drop. There are videos online, and I will try to include them in the sources, but they may get taken down, where people have edited the original soundtrack back in where the needle drops replaced it. They shoehorn needle drops into a basically finished film because some executive or some audience test decided that the film needed Gen X dad rock that makes dudes point at the screen.
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
They even used one of Shrek 2's most famous needle drops with I Need a Hero in the Mario Fails compilation. Which personally, if I was making a slapstick sequence, that is not one of the songs on my list. It's a song for a big heroic triumph, like, I don't know, the ending of Shrek 2? You could make an argument that it's for contrast, but I don't think it really fits that very well. Maybe you started with that, and then it breaks the first time he fails. That could have been a subversion of expectation. To be fair, it kind of does that at the end, but again, you haven't set that up musically. The same music played for him failing earlier, after all. Point being, the drastic contrast between the two films exemplifies how needle drops can be good and how these needle drops are not. The song choice is not just undercutting, but antithetical to the mood and point of the scene. I truly lack the words to adequately express how shitty this is to the talented musicians, composer, and animators that worked on this film. Some of the composer's work is literally just removed, and the animators look significantly worse because their work no longer matches the audio. Now to be clear, art absolutely is iterative. Changes can get made quite late in production, but it's the nature of the change here that's so uncreative. It's making a film by committee in the worst possible way. The original score is actually quite good. It uses leitmotifs from the games in meaningful ways while connecting to the emotions and tone of the scene it's in. Scenes that kept the score, even just partly, feel so much better than the moments where the needle drops are playing. While I don't really love the Illumination style, and I don't love all the designs, the animation is undeniably executed to quite a polished level, and it shines when it's in concert with the audio, rather than fighting it. The artists working on this film are talented. The people in charge at Illumination, though, are not. When the opening scene swaps to a needle drop, it genuinely feels like a poorly done fan-edited trailer from 2009. That said, you could argue that No Sleep Till Brooklyn is an exception. While on the nose, it is fitting to the plumbers being from Brooklyn, and it could have set up a nice distinction between the Mushroom Kingdom's more fantastical elements and having an original score, and the real-world New York using music from our world. But of course, it doesn't actually do that. The songs don't even establish a relationship to time. The film's set in the year it was released. It also keeps using needle drops, famously used better in other films. I mentioned James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy earlier. He used Mr. Blue Sky as an excellent tone setter and opener to the second film that feels connected to the characters and is diegetic. Guardians is also partly about musical nostalgia. Using songs from a specific time period actually serves a purpose. Mr. Blue Sky has been used in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Invention of Lying, Megamind, and of all things Paul Blart Mall Cop, amongst many others. It's just one of the songs in Mario that comes up in lists of most overused needle drops, like this one by Collider, or some of the comments on this Reddit thread. So not only is it replacing great score with needle drops, those needle drops are distractingly comparable in their use to other films that do it better. Now, to be fair to the film, there's exactly one excellently used needle drop that's also diegetic. I'll hear no arguments against the DK rap. It's great, and it's actually coherent to the scene and characters that it's accompanying, though it does lean into the remember that cliche the film relies on so heavily. Which is also interesting, because so many of the needle drops actually pull away from the nostalgia that you think the film would rely on. The original score does a wonderful job of pulling on leitmotifs from the over 50 years of franchise music that has all become fairly iconic.
Music can be one of the most powerful elements of our favorite games. Many composers have made their mark in the gaming world, but when you think about video game composition, one name resonates through the decades: Koji Kondo.
Even from an executive stance that more nostalgia is good, the Needledrops are a complete failure of a decision. Though that would require caring enough to understand that people have nostalgia for that score over random 80s songs. It would require that they cared about Mario as a series of artworks which are deeply meaningful to a lot of people. I guess I just wish this was more of a film and less of a Minions Without the Minions comedy hour Mario nostalgia theme park ride. Let me be also abundantly clear. That is a very subjective desire. The film has some decently done visuals and is funny in places. Anyone who enjoyed the theme park ride derived joy from the art, and I think that's awesome. I wish I felt the same. I don't enjoy disliking things, and I rarely discuss them in public because I never want someone to feel like I am critiquing their joy. I wanted to discuss the issues with this film in particular, especially the Needledrops, because I think they exemplify one thing really well, especially when put in comparison with the 1993 live-action counterpart. Why corporate oversight lessens a work of art. I think this film contains the pieces of a much better film, and it bothers me that it gets covered over for cheap gags, empty references, celebrity voice casting, nostalgia bait, and forgetting half its plot threads. I also don't want the artists, outside of specific choice makers, to feel that I think they're bad at their jobs. They demonstrably aren't. I guess I'm just yearning for an art system that would care more about their work than profit. Who knows? Maybe the film would have performed way worse if the Needledrops weren't there and the cast wasn't celebrities included based on fame. It's a matter of priorities, and the film undeniably succeeded on the priority it was made under, making disgusting amounts of cash for shareholders who did none of the work. Just as 1993 completely failed in that regard. 2023 is a thoroughly nothing film. Empty and vapid. And I would argue it could be, and should be, so much more. Both Mario movies are poor adaptations in unique ways. They are both messy, but at least 1993 Mario feels like it's a group of artists who want to make a unique film that says something. And not just a boardroom that wanted to generate TikTok clips and news articles about the Needledrops, while not caring about their composers' or animators' work, or voice acting as an art form. 1993 Mario may not look like the games, but there is a clear design ethos, a great deal of love in every costume and set, every practical effect, and silly dinosaur man. Even as it's less faithful, it at least makes something distinctly its own. I feel bad for the artists that worked on the Super Mario Bros. Movie and had to watch their work get mistreated. I feel particularly bad for the composers who had their excellent score ripped out for really bad Needledrops. I feel really bad for the animators on each of those Needledrop sequences who look less competent than they are because it no longer matches the sound. If the best thing about your film is a suicidal Luma, Carrie Payton's Penguin King, and Bowser Luigi implied Yowie, maybe you should focus less on market research and more on what art you're making. So it isn't that 1993 has heart and Illuminations does not. It's that an executive ripped it out and shoved it under the floorboards. But you can still hear it beating. You can see glimpses of it around the shoddy plotting and celebrity casting and misguided musical choices. Neither film is particularly great, but I know which one child me would have preferred and which one I'd prefer to rewatch again as an adult. And I'll always pick Dennis Hopper saying Goomba over executive meddling the movie. Goomba! Also, I didn't have another place in the video to put this, and I really didn't want to write a dissertation on man in dress jokes just for the Mario video of all things. But can we knock it off, cis people? Can we knock off the, oh my god, that's a man in a dress, he's not supposed to wear that, oh my... Just stop, please. Thank you.